Three, two, one. We should be live right now. Welcome back to the channel, people. Welcome back to another live stream. I hope you guys are having an amazing Thursday. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about do not buy altcoins for most of 2026. Do not buy altcoins for most of 2026. For the majority of 2026, it's better you don't buy altcoins. It's better you stay on the sideline. That's what I'm going to talk about today. We'll look at the state of the cryptocurrency market. Bitcoin is back at $65,000. I hope none of you guys is surprised. You shouldn't be surprised that we're back at 65,000, and hopefully you won't be surprised if we are, somewhere around $62,000, 63,000, even $60,000 over the next couple of days. I hope none of you is surprised. If you watch my content, if you watch my Bitcoin price analysis, we talked about this. At $70,000, we said most likely the local top was in, and we were looking at a pullback in the low $60,000 range. A $65,000 Bitcoin, it's only right we're in the low 60,000. Sometimes it could be today, it could be tomorrow, but just give it a couple of days, guys. But welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having an amazing Thursday. If you have some stuff that you would like me to talk about, feel free to put them in the chat. Hope you guys are having an excellent, not just an amazing, hope you guys are having an excellent Thursday. Let's see if we can get a few more people to tune in into this live stream. We should have a really good conversation in regards to the altcoin market in 2026. My belief is that none of you, and I really, really hope none of you, is thinking about doing anything major in 2026 in the altcoin market. If you want to test the water, if you want to put in a couple $100 that you don't really mind if you lose it all, that is perfectly fine. But if you're thinking about real capital, if you're thinking about deploying thousands or maybe tens or maybe hundreds, if you have hundreds, if you have tens of thousands of dollars, stay away for majority of 2026. Stay away from the altcoin market. And I'm going to be brutally honest. I am going to be brutal. If you've lost money in the cryptocurrency market in 2026, especially if you watch my live streams, especially if you've watched my update on this market, if you have lost a single dollar, you don't have anybody else to blame but yourself, because for the majority of 2026, I told you guys that we have a cryptocurrency market that is in a long-term downtrend. And I told you guys, stay away from this market. Plenty of times, I told you it was RIP, right? RIP to altcoins, RIP to the cryptocurrency market. Expectation should be we continue down because the market is overall bearish. So if you've lost, all right, if you've lost a single dollar in this market in 2026, I don't want you to blame anyone else. I want you to look at yourself. I want you to look at no one, other than yourself. And if you are going to put blame on something, I want that to be you. You need to take accountability. You need to you need to acknowledge that throughout 2026, when you were watching my live streams, I told you don't do anything in this market because we are going so much lower. And the altcoins, oh my God, altcoins. You're looking at multiple 60% crashes or 80% if we are going to be honest. So I'm here to, push more of that conversation that in 2026, if you're thinking about altcoins, for majority of 2026, don't do anything. Stay on the sideline. And I'm not jealous because I don't want you guys to make money. It's not that I don't want you to make money from this market. It is simply because I understand and I appreciate, capital preservation. I appreciate being able to watch the market crash when you're not participating. I know the feeling, I know the joy. And I know the pain, I know the brutality of when the market is crashing and you are in the market. I know what that feels like. And I know what a 50% crash feels like. Chat, in the last bull market, I bought Coinbase around $280. And I watched the price of Coinbase go from $280 down to $35. I know the pain. I know the feeling throughout the entire bear market. I watched the price go from 280 to 250. I thought 250 was going to be the bottom. I saw price go from 250 to 220. I thought 220 was going to be the bottom. I saw the price go from 220 to $200, 200 to 180, 180 to 150, 150 to $100. Remember, my average is $280. Yo, at $100, I thought that was the absolute bottom of Coinbase bear market. And oh boy, was I in it for a wild ride. Like, it was wild. It was wild, guys. I saw price go from $100. This is the last bear market. I saw price go from $100 all the way down to 45. Yo, at 45, I said, this gotta be the bottom of this bear market. Yeah, surprise, surprise. Couple months later, Coinbase was trading at $35. That was the bottom of the 2022 bear market. Remember, my average is $280. So, there's nothing that I talk about. There is nothing, for me to be jealous about. There is not a single part of me that I don't want you to make money in this market. But what I don't want you to do is, I don't want you to repeat the mistakes I made. Because back in those days, nobody was talking about how we could potentially go from $280 in Coinbase down to $35. Nobody was talking about it. Right? Maybe some people were, but I never had the luck to come across influencers that were talking about how bearish Coinbase was. And even though at the time I was doing technical analysis, guys, I wasn't really thinking about that the price of Coinbase could potentially go from $280 down to $35. I wasn't really thinking about that. And this is 2022 in the same market that I was very bearish on. So I know exactly what it felt like, being a bag holder. I know exactly what it felt like watching the price on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. Daily, it's crazy, especially when you're looking at price on a daily basis. On a monthly basis. I know what it felt like, watching the price of Coinbase go down to $35. Now, luckily, I was able to start building a position in the low $60 range. And I also added more to my position around, I think, $48. But just don't do anything in the altcoin market in 2026 is all I can say to you guys. And I'm not saying this because it's an opinion that I have that is based on nothing. Guys, I'm just looking at the charts. So I want to spend some time today, giving you more reasons why you should 100%. Guys, I'm not saying 90% stay. No, I'm saying 100%. If we can go over 100%, I'll go over 100%. 1,000%, guys. Stay away from altcoins for majority of 2026. So let's talk about it. When you see something like Solana looking like this on the monthly, you may be thinking about, from $300 to $77. What an incredible opportunity this is. Because, when you go from the top all the way down to the current price, this is a 74% crash. Surely, it can't get worse than this. That is exactly what you're thinking about. And that's exactly what I'm seeing across X. I don't know how many of you guys got an X account. There is tons of influencers who are pushing Solana, who are predicting. These guys are doing a great job, but they are constantly predicting that this is the low of the crash. But there is no evidence that this is the low of the crash. And when I think about where Solana could potentially trade, over the next couple months, on this monthly time frame, chat, I'm looking at 60. Look, we are right around $61. Once you lose 61, you start looking at 26. You basically start looking at this entire range. Like anywhere around here is basically anyone's guess. From $19 all the way up to around 48. This is anyone's guess right here. So when I think about what that looks like percentage-wise, the bare minimum, you're looking at another 36% crash. And then you're looking at another 75% crash, if we do go down in the low $20 range. So this is not something that you should be accumulating right now. What if, all right? And what if, guys, what if we dump all the way down into, back in the $8 range? This is not a prediction. I'm just showing you what, targets are, what the levels are in terms of, your levels of interest. Now, this could potentially be Ethereum 2.0 of the last bear market. Instead of getting a bigger crash, we bottomed around $800. So could we bottom around $77? Yeah, probably. But there is no evidence, at least right now, there is no evidence that $77 is going to be the bottom of, Solana's bear market. And then when we look at some indicators, if I'm looking at this MACD on the monthly, I think you're looking at a MACD that retraces all the way down to the zero line. We are very close to that. And then, of course, we need to be a little bit more patient because we need to see change in momentum. Like, I need to see us go from, super, super bearish. You see this, red histogram. I need to see us go from red into pink. Like, I need to see a decrease in the momentum on the monthly, not on the daily, not on the weekly. I need to see that on the monthly. So far, we don't have, I don't want to say we don't have, it doesn't even look like we anywhere near to that. All right. And that could potentially take 2-3 months before we start to see a decrease in the momentum. And when you go to the weekly, I'm looking at RSI. I'm looking at MACD. I am trying to see do we have bullish divergences? I don't see any bullish divergency. When you go back to the last bear market, we have some bullish divergences when Solana was in the bottom process. You start from around June of 2022 when the price is around $28. All right. RSI started trending up. The MACD started trending up. But of course, guys, we still saw another 50% crash at the beginning of this long-term bullish divergency and, bottom of process. This was another 70% crash going from $28. So I'm looking at the weekly. I don't see a sign that we are in the process, and forget about being in the process, that we have even started the process to bottom. Like, I don't see any sign of that. So this is why I am, very adamant in, if you love whatever capital that you have, if it's 5,000, 10,000, and, that is something that you don't easily want to lose. And if you lose it, the impact is greater than if you were to gain profits from it. Then I would say you're better off not do anything, because there's going to be a time where, you can put that capital to work. So, looking at something like a Solana, absolutely not. In terms of building a position right here, absolutely not, guys. And it's not just Solana. It's every single one of these altcoins. We talked about SUI. I want you guys to take a look at SUI on the monthly, guys. Look, where are support levels if we are going to retest them? Well, you don't have a support until you get to around 47 cents. The price of SUI is at 90 cents. We're looking at 47 cents. That means we could potentially go down another 50%. So think about this, guys. You got $10,000 to put in the market. Are you willing to be down around $5,000, like half of your capital? Like, are you really, really willing to take on that risk? I don't think so. Right? I really, really don't think so. So staying on the sideline, even if it means when we do put in the bottom, let's say, we're wrong in the analysis and we do put in the bottom, even if it means you come in 50% from the highs, that is perfectly fine. Rather miss the first 50% move than be down 50% on your investment. So I'm looking at SUI right now, and I go to the weekly. I'm looking for a reason to be a bull. I am looking for a reason why I should start a position. I don't see a reason. I'm looking for bullish divergencies. The MACD is not giving me any bullish divergency. RSI, not a bullish divergency. I'm looking at price. Are we doing anything to break the structure of this downtrend? Absolutely not. What do we have? We have a continuation of the downtrend. When it comes to SUI, I have been warning you guys since the mid $3 range. I told you that on the weekly, SUI was finally in a long-term downtrend. So if you have lost money in this project, I don't think you have anyone else to blame but yourself, if we are going to be very honest. The only time I became bullish on SUI in the short term was during this day cap bounce right here, or this relief rally. And what I've always said to you was, this is a very difficult time to trade SUI. Trying to time a relief rally, like trying to trade it, is extremely difficult. And unless you are very experienced, better off just staying on the sideline. If you want to make money from the market, wait until the bounce and then short the project. That is the easiest way to make the money in the bear market. The same way during a bull market, instead of shorting the stuff, you want a long, right? You want a long pullbacks. And in the bear market, you want to short relief rallies. So when you look something like SUI, I don't see a reason why anyone, all right, I really mean, guys, anyone should be a buyer. Right? I don't care if you like the fundamentals. Yes, the fundamentals are great, and maybe the fundamentals are improving, but yo, look at the trend of the market. The fundamentals aren't going to stop the price from the crashing all the way down into some of these targets that we are talking about. Fundamentals and price action are completely two different things. The next project, look at XRP. My prediction is that XRP is, well on its way into this range right here. Basically, we're getting rid of every move, every gain from 2024. We can even say the entire bull market. If I'm looking at XRP right here on the monthly, why should I be a buyer? When I look at the last bear markets, when XRP was doing this, there was not a reason for you to be a buyer. But when XRP was going sideways, which is right here, this was a time for you to be a buyer. And I know some of you guys may be, you may be saying to yourself right now that, well, it's a lot easier, hindsight 2020, it's a lot easier for you to look back and say, this would have been the time. Guys, that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make. When it's obvious, that is going to be the time. And I'm telling you right now, if you are doing anything with XRP, you are basically predicting a V-shaped recovery. And if you guys don't know what a V-shaped recovery looks like, it is basically we get the crash. It looks just like a V, guys. It is basically we're getting the crash like this, and then the market pumps again. This is what we call a V-shaped recovery. So I don't think we get anything like this. I believe what we are more likely to see is very similar to past bear markets, where price continues in the long-term downtrend, and then at some point the bear market comes to an end, and then we go sideways for a long period of time, building a base for the next breakout. So when this is taking place, this is when you are going to know that actually the bottom is already in. All right. And building a base is not going in a straight line. All right. The price of XRP could potentially go from let's just say 50 cents up to 70, back to 45 cents, up to 80 cents. But when you give it enough time, you can see it is ranging, instead of, a trendy market where maybe we have an uptrend with higher highs and higher lows. You have a market that is trending sideways. So that is when you are going to be in a position where it makes sense to build a position. Right now, it makes sense to stay on the sideline because you are looking at, this is a falling knife right here, guys. If you are catching this, this is exactly what they mean. Do not catch a falling knife in this market. All right. I promise you, I don't know how many tokens are out there that are bullish in 2026, but it is not the majority. And not only it is not the majority, we are talking about, percentage-wise, guys, you're looking at 0.00 something. You're basically talking about one or maybe two projects out of, how many do we have now? 320 million cryptocurrency tokens, which is, I can't even register how we got to, 30 million different tokens. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So, hopefully this conversation is helping. Do not do anything in the altcoin market for majority of 2026. And notice I'm saying majority of 2026. I'm not saying all 2026, because probably towards the end of 2026, the market may start shifting. We may start breaking some structures on the weekly, maybe on the monthly. So I want to make sure that I'm very selective. I don't want to say the entire 2026, because who knows what October, December, Like who knows what that is going to look like? Because traditionally, the cryptocurrency market seems to be bullish, in the last quarter of the year. Once again, if you're new here, guys, hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button if you are new here. If you're watching the stream, just don't forget to smash the like button as well. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you guys have some stuff that you will like me to look into, if you have some coins, tokens, if you have stocks, just put them in the chat, man. And let's keep going. All right, shall we? Let us keep going. So. That was altcoins. Stay away from altcoins. But in terms of Bitcoin, we talked about Bitcoin yesterday. And what I continue to say to you guys is that, you want to be very selective on who is or who you are listening to, because it seems like, a lot of these influencers, I don't think I'm an influencer because I really can't influence anything with less than 300 subscribers. So I'm not going to call myself an influencer. But, some of these influencers, I don't know exactly what it is, but to me, look, there's no way. I look at this market when it comes to purely, just trend following. There's no way I look at this market. Me with only a couple years with experience in technical analysis. There's no way I look at this market. And right away, right? It doesn't take me no more than 5 seconds. Right away, I can see that we have a market that is in a downtrend. Why do I know we have a market that's in a downtrend? Well, lower highs, lower lows. If I know, the basics of technical analysis, 5 minutes right after I open the chart, there's no way someone who has been doing technical analysis for, over 5 years, some of these guys, probably more, there is no way, throughout this entire dump, they wouldn't know the Bitcoin is in a long-term downtrend. Absolutely no way, guys. So that brings me to believe that some of these guys, they have this agenda. I don't know exactly what the agenda is. I don't know if they are stuck in, some sort of positions and they are looking for exit liquidity, or I don't know exactly what it is. All right, look, you can be someone who is only, bullish on the market, but still, when the market is not bullish, you still have to acknowledge the fact that the market is not bullish. So you gotta be very selective when you are listening to a lot of these influencers. In terms of Bitcoin, what I've said to you guys is that when you look at the weekly time frame, I think, we are more likely to continue down before we get a weekly rally. And if the price of Bitcoin was to come down into the low $50,000 range, that is when I start looking at Bitcoin. I go from, $97,000 down to the low 50s. I'll start looking at Bitcoin and I start to say to myself that this is a place where it looks more likely we get a weekly day cap bounce or a weekly relief rally before we roll over again. Anything around here, I just don't see a bullish market. And why is that? Well, we had a relief rally just not too long ago. Exactly about 4 weeks ago, we had this relief rally right here. And this is the argument that I've made, throughout these last couple of weeks, because, prices are $60,000. People are looking at Bitcoin and they are calling for a relief rally. A relief rally for what? We just had one. Maybe you give it a couple more weeks, maybe we get the relief rally. So when I look at the daily, I just think, we have a Bitcoin that is more likely to go sideways on the daily. And then, after that is over, the price goes into the low $50,000 range. When people were calling for $60,000 as the bottom of the pullback, like I honestly, it's kind of laughable when you think about it, because why is $60,000 the bottom of this pullback? Like, what makes $60,000 the bottom of the pullback? Where is the evidence? And people are looking at the RSI, and they say because this is the lowest RSI, well, maybe not the lowest, but one of the lowest. I mean, look, the last time you got RSI on the daily at 15, you got to go to the COVID crash. All right, if you go back to COVID crash, which is, COVID crash is going to be somewhere back here. COVID crash, where's the COVID crash? Well, actually, not even, COVID crash right here, guys. The last time we had daily RSI at 15, you got to go back to the COVID crash. So, to me, this argument is just, I can't even believe it sometimes, because when I look at the structure, all right, first and foremost, before you look at any indicator, you should always look at the structure of the market. Are you in a downtrend? Are you in an uptrend? But anyways, my assessment and my kind of approach and interpretation on what we about to see right here is, it's just a little bit of a reset in this RSI. Maybe the RSI comes back into the 50s, and then we roll over again. I really believe that's exactly what you are. That's exactly what you are seeing right now. So when that is playing out, price of Bitcoin is potentially going to be going sideways, and then once that is over, we dump into the low $50,000 range. It's just not right now. You got to give it some time. But 60,000, being the bottom of this crash, I just think it's laughable. And then when I look at the weekly monthly MACD, at least, I think the monthly MACD will pull all the way down to the zero line. Look, we are currently up here, guys. Like, we will pull all the way down here. You look at the MACD momentum. This is extremely bearish. Until you see a change in the momentum, until you start to see this pink histogram right here and a decrease in the momentum, I don't think you have any business. I don't think you have any business calling, $60,000 as the bottom, right? The bottom of this bear market that we have. RSI is in a bear market territory. MACD is in a bear market territory. What other indicators are you guys, believer in? Look, if I'm looking at the super trend on the daily, guys, only way for Bitcoin to reverse this daily downtrend, we gotta have to break above $80. I don't think we're going back to $80. I don't see Bitcoin around $80. All right, that is on the daily. When you go to the weekly, talking about reversing a higher time frame, when you go to the weekly, only way for Bitcoin to reverse this weekly downtrend, we gotta have to break above $96,000. I don't know about you guys, but we won't see $96,000 in 2026. Guys, listen, that I'm willing to stand behind it. I don't think Bitcoin sees $96,000 in 2026. I think you might see $96,000, but you got to go in 2027. Right? And you may not even see $96,000 in 2027. If the bottom is around, let's say, low 40s, you don't see $96,000 in 2027. In 2028, probably. But anyways, the trend is your best friend, man. It's not just your friend. To me, you got to stick with the trend. And the more I look at this market, the more I look at Bitcoin. Like, if you are losing money in the cryptocurrency market in 2026, I think you can only blame yourself. And especially if you are someone who's watched my live streams, who's watched my coverage of Bitcoin, all right, you may not believe me. You may not believe my analysis. You may think, my analysis is full of you know what, but at least, all right, at least try to listen, try to see where I'm coming from, and then do your own research, and then see what conclusion you arrive to. Like, do you get to a place where my outlook on the market is so much different compared to your outlook on the market in terms of technical analysis? And if that's what it is, perfectly fine. But the one thing that we can both agree on, and this is not an opinion, it's an absolute fact, is the fact that the cryptocurrency market is in a long-term downtrend. And until that is over, we are more likely to continue to experience this downtrend, and price will continue to go down. Hit the like button. Subscribe, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. I was a sub. Oh, appreciate you, man. Sub 234. Definitely appreciate you, Tim. It looks bad, but also very nice. I mean, this channel is growing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are growing. Look, I do appreciate you guys 100%. Or should I say 1,000%. I appreciate you guys, 263 subscribers. It seems like yesterday we started with just, the first subscriber. We are 263. Hopefully we get to 1,000 subscribers pretty soon. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you have some altcoins, I only got about 20 more minutes. If you have altcoins that you would like me to talk about, please, guys, if you want me to analyze some stuff, please. I don't know why I'm saying please, but just put them in the chat, all right? Put them in the chat, and then we'll look at them. All right. I don't know how many of you guys are into miners, but I think Iran topped around $74, and I think this is a move, back to $33, and $33 is a very, very significant. I mean, I don't know how significant this is, but actually, I do think it is very significant. It is the most. What was I about to say? 33 is our most recent higher low. All right, higher low on the weekly, and if we go below 33 on the weekly, that will break down this weekly uptrend, and this will give us a weekly downtrend for the very first time. Let me show you, chat. That will be a weekly downtrend for the very first time since this breakdown right here. The bad thing about this breakdown right here is it could potentially end very, very bad. So I actually have some puts. I think my puts are probably in profits right now. I bought puts around, I think maybe 50 or 49, maybe 45. So anyway, above $45, I bought some puts. Expiration around December of this year. I forgot the exact date. But I think I may be in some profits, not too much. But I don't care. I think I'm going to do well over the next couple months. But anyways, once we go below 33, oh my gosh, man. You're looking at 28. I think we're going to easily lose $28. I'm basically looking at a retest of this $15 to $18 target. I think this is exactly where we're coming if I'm looking at Iran. If we go down to the lower time frame, I want to bring back my 200 moving average. On the 4 hour, we just lost the 200 EMA, which is not looking good. Not only did we lost it, we actually retested, got rejected. So this is a breakdown, retest, got rejected. So I do think this is the beginning of testing $3,300, see if it holds. But once you lose 33, yeah, I think it's down to $15, $18. Around $28, we do have some sort of support. That is the IPO, as the IPO price. So keep an eye on that. What I don't like in terms of the structure is, when you go to the weekly, this is now a very clear high, lower high on the weekly. This is our very first lower high, guys. Our last weekly lower high, you got to go all the way back to around $13. No, actually, yeah, 13. That was our last weekly lower high. So, yeah, this is not looking good. I don't think IREN is looking good. And we also talked about Wolf. Remember I told you guys that if Wolf is going to actually be bullish, and if we are going to continue higher, we need to finish this week above $17. It does not look like that is going to be the case. We broke above 17 a couple of days ago. We ended up with a daily close below 17. This was a red flag. I told you guys about that. Yesterday, we ended up with a red daily candle. Again, not looking good. It looks like this is going to be red again. I am actually willing to say I will jump into a short position. I will absolutely short it with a stop loss above 1762. And I actually think this is a fantastic opportunity right here. A very tight stop loss. Now, the trend, we haven't lost the trend yet, so I want to be very honest. This is a very, very risky trade. But I am very confident in a trade that looks like this, where I'm risking about 12% of my capital, and I'm going after. Look, I think we're going to break through $11, and we are definitely going lower. My target will be, somewhere around 850. Like, this is a 46% profits, 12% loss. Like, I am willing to say this is a legit target. And guys, I don't even want to talk about this, but I really see a crash back to around $2. But if you want to play a little bit more safer, what I would say is this: gotta wait until prices below $11. And also, if you can wait until prices are below the 200 daily moving average, I think that's when you can start looking for some shorting opportunities. But what I will say is, I don't like what I'm seeing right now. Like, this is not something that, like, if I was a holder of Wolf, if I had a position, I wouldn't be confident right now. Like, there's no confidence in something that looks like this. That I will tell you. When you go to the weekly, all right, this is the other part. When you go to the weekly, you can clearly see the momentum indicator. This is not, okay, looks like, the momentum was kind of fading, but it wouldn't surprise me if we pick up the momentum to the downside, guys. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if, the histogram goes back to being red and we start to see an increase in the momentum. Already the MACD is bearish, in terms of, the two lines crossing below and above each other. Already this is bearish right here, which is not really a good sign. You look at the momentum. Momentum is not looking good. The only thing is that trend-wise, we are still up. We are still in an uptrend. So at least until the price is below, like, $11, there's really not a reason to be bearish outside of, not liking the fact that we broke above the highs, but we are failing to close above it. So the fact that we are failing to close above the highs, to me, it's a major red flag, and I absolutely don't like it. And it's not the first time retesting it and try to continue higher, guys. It is basically like, you can say this is like the fourth or the fifth time, because every single one of these rallies, we were trying to get above $17. But every single time, we continue to come back down. So this is not looking good right here. So, yeah, so Wolf, I'm looking at that, and I don't like it. Check. Oh my gosh, Shiba, man. Remember Shiba from the last bull market? And this is why, like, this is one of the reason the Coinbase delisted Shiba. This is one of the reason, man. Like, you have to stay away from altcoins, because you don't even know, which ones are actually going to survive. Guys, look, this is Shiba right here. Like, honestly, this thing has been in a bear market. Let's be honest, guys. It has been in a bear market since 2021. This was not a bull market, all right? This gave us a weekly or monthly lower high. Here you had another monthly lower high. And right now, we are actually, we're losing the lows of 2022 bear market, which is absolutely ridiculous. So can you imagine, holding this project and thinking that it is going back to, forget about going back to all-time highs. Just holding this, it's a disaster. I don't own it. Yeah, I'm not saying you own it. I'm just kind of doing TA and kind of, I'm speaking in general, basically. But anyways, yeah, look, this is not looking good. Once you lose these lows, you are basically in price discovery. Like, who knows how how much further down do we go? Like, do we lose another digit? Do we go back into the double digit? Do we go back into the single digits? Like, do we, what do we do? If you're Coinbase and you have this thing on your platform, like, what are you even thinking about? Like, honestly, guys, yo, chat, I don't know how many of you guys follow me on X, but I put this out the other day, and I actually kind of talked about it, a couple days ago, I believe. This is the problem with crypto right now, guys. This has been basically like some sort of a research for the last 15 years now. I put it somewhere. There we go. Right here, guys. I actually put it out there. I believe, the cryptocurrency market needs to wake up. This has been, a research, an experiment, and we are at a point where, investors are very sophisticated, and they actually want to see products. They want to see services that has been built, for the last 15, 20 years now. How are we in 2026? Chat, just think about this, right? How are we in 2026? Forget about me and you, because we in the market, we are interacting with these protocols. We are doing a bunch of stuff with DeFi and whatever else is out there. But how are we in 2026, guys? And none of your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your co-workers, your neighbors, like, none of them are using crypto on a regular basis. It doesn't even have to be on a daily basis but not even like, once every couple months, anyone is using crypto outside of, us, the people who are in this market. Just think about that for a second. All these last 15 years, you can't come up with one single product or service that has been built in the cryptocurrency market that is being used by regular people. That is something to think about. When you think about AI, guys, let's say the beginning is 2023. Right? I know you can go back as far back as 2016, but just kind of think about, the beginning of ChatGPT. Chat, do you know how many times I use AI on a regular basis? Like, even on YouTube right now, look at some of my thumbnails. Like, this is AI right here. This is not me create. Like, anything that looks like this, guys, this is not me. This is AI right here. Right? Like, this is not me, man. Chat, I am using AI on a regular basis. My friends, my neighbors, co-workers. So when I think about the cryptocurrency market, I just think in 2026, if we are still thinking about, let me show you guys actually something. Brian Armstrong, he tweeted something the other day, and I was like, dude, are you serious? Where is the tweet? Oh my gosh. The problem with Twitter is chat, look at this right here, chat. Crypto and tokenization will be a great equalizer, giving billions a level playing field for pursue wealth creation. Equality of opportunity is worth pursuing, 100%. But buddy, this has been the conversation for the last 15 years, man. We in 2026, and we are still talking about how crypto is going to be this great equalizer, how crypto is going to allow, all sort of things to take place. Like, what is the products and services that you guys have been building for these last 15 years? And I believe this is why when you go to CoinMarketCap, you have 33 million. The other day there were 32 million tokens. We got 33 million, but still, we are talking about how crypto is going to be this great innovation, and it's going to allow people to have equal access to financial services and property rights. And you can go on, but we're 15 years into this. I think it's time, we go past these promise and actually deliver what has been promised for the last, 15, 20 years. Anyways, going back to TA, guys, things like Shiba. I mean, you look at these chart right here. Yeah, don't touch it, guys. And then what else? Yeah, I got about 5 minutes, guys. Look at Zcash. I told you guys Zcash just worthless basically at this point. Zcash just kind of, consolidating on the daily. Once we go below, look, on the weekly, it's even bad because on the weekly, guys, you don't really have any support literally until you get to around 63, $63. On the daily, though, you have support around here, around 185. So I guarantee you, we're going to lose 185 very soon. And once you lose 185, the price of Zcash is going to retest this, $120. I do believe, though, once we get to $120, this is where you are more likely to get a weekly relief rally. So it wouldn't surprise me if we get something like this, where we go to 120, let's say, and then we come back to around 230, all right, or maybe even to around $200, and then we dump all the way down to around $60. So keep your eyes on that. But anyways, 120 is coming up pretty soon, and then you get a bounce, and then we're going all the way down to around $60. We talked about XRP. Jasmine, all right, let me give you guys a quick update on Jasmine. If I'm looking at Jasmine right now, only reason Jasmine is kind of, not looking all dramatic is because, there's a weekly level that is kind of holding. But, yeah, give it a couple of weeks. I think we're going to take this out, and, you're looking at a Jasmine that comes all the way down to the lows of the last bear market. And when it comes to a bunch of these altcoins, honestly, we are in a position where, I don't want to say you have to pray, because, prayers are not going to work. It is what it is, guys. But we are at a time where if we lose some of these key levels, it is really, really going to get bad. And I am in a position where I don't want any of you guys. If I can have the power to say, don't touch this until this is over, and you guys actually listen, I hope that actually works. So I'm looking at Jasmine, and this is not great. And you are looking at potentially, all right, this is another 50% crash maybe. If you go from right here all the way down, this is another 50% crash. So this is not looking great, guys. And then, damn, I was about to say something. Oh my gosh, I just forgot. And then, it's every single one of these altcoins. All right, every single one of these altcoins. it's no surprise, man. The entire market is, I mean, the whole market is shit. It's just like, oh my gosh, man. Guys, super, super depressing. Very, very depressing. Hood is down, I think, almost 60%. Going from the highs of its bull market. Where's Robinhood? Right here. So I'm looking at Hood, and I'm like, oh, this is a real crash. So I don't know. Do we drop all the way down into the 40s? Probably this is a very big support right here that we are coming up against. But if I'm looking at this weekly, man, I mean, this thing looks great. Like, this looks very, very bearish. You look at the weekly. In terms of the momentum indicator, I mean, this is super, super bearish. Like, I don't look. Maybe we start, loosen up right now over the next couple of days because, I mean, look at the crash. If you look at the weekly, it's gone from 140 like straight down to $70. Surely we got to get a weekly day count bounce. But the thing is, Robinhood is trading below its 200 daily moving average. And let me be very clear, guys. When the stock is below the 200 daily moving average and you see bearish patterns, run away, man. So anyways, though, I'm looking at this right here and I'm kind of wondering, do we get a double bottom right here? Probably, but once you lose $67, it's only right. You start looking at 47, you start looking at $50, somewhere around here. So let's see how this performs. My worry is when you zoom out and you go to the monthly, though. The monthly MACD, the monthly RSI are about to push into a bear market territory. So the monthly MACD is basically already about to turn bearish. You can see this blue line is about to give us a cross down. And also, we have seen a decrease, all right? Since November 2025, we have seen decrease in momentum. So the bulls definitely ran out of momentum. And if we start to see some red histogram, if you start to see red right here, guys, I think we might be cooked for some time. So I'm looking at Robinhood right now, and I want to say patience will be the right approach. It is down 50%. Probably it looks a little bit attractive, from $150 down to $70. And you could be thinking about, surely the worst is behind us. But I am going to say, maybe we should, be a little bit more patient and see how this plays out. See how this plays out. And in my opinion, unless I see some sort of a bullish structure, and if I'm on this daily right here, I would like to see the price reclaim its 200 daily moving average. So that's around $100 as of right now. And I would like to see us break out of this downtrend. Our first test is going to be getting above this, $88 resistance. If Robinhood can get above $88, give us a pullback, put in a daily higher low, I think I'm willing to be a buyer. And I will be thinking about, coming back into the $120, $140 range. But until then, I think staying on the sideline is the right thing to do. And last but not least, this is the last thing that I'm going to say. If you guys, if you're in my Discord, I've already talked about this. And if you guys want to join my Discord, guys, I'm going to put the link in the chat. But anyways, the SPY has got a bearish divergency on the daily. So to me, it looks like we are due for a pullback. I don't think this is the pullback. When you look at the daily, we have some very bearish divergencies. Despite a continuation of the uptrend, you can clearly see RSI has been declining. All right, lower highs. MACD exactly the same thing. Even if you go to the weekly, guys, RSI looks really bad. MACD is already pulling back. So I do think the SPY is about to break down. Right now, you have to hope we stay above $675. So if we lose 675, that triggers a daily downtrend. And we could potentially, all right, let me give you guys targets. We could potentially pull all the way back to around 650. So if we do go down to 650, then I do think, you're looking at a continuation of the crash in the stock market. Also, when you take a look at the VIX, I want you guys to go down to the lower time frame. If you go down to like the 15 minutes, the VIX is establishing an uptrend. VIX going up. It's bearish for the stock market. So the question is, do we revisit the higher $20 range? Do we push into the 30s? Do we push into the 50s? How high is the VIX about to climb? Anyways, appreciate you guys. Man. I may do another live stream later on today because I do have some time. But what I am going to do, if any of you guys is interested in joining the Discord, all right, it's not free. I do charge, guys. It is about $200. You sign up for 6 months. It's about $350. You do it for the entire year. Basically, 6 months will be from now until, from now until August, right? And then 12 months will be from now until next February. So if you guys are interested in joining the Discord, guys, we don't just talk about the cryptocurrency. We don't just talk about crypto. We also talk about stocks. We trade all of them. So I'm putting the link in here. I'm gonna pin the link. You have to DM me. Once you click the link and it takes you to my Discord, if you DM me, I'll put you in the private group. I don't DM you first, guys. You DM me, I respond to you. If someone else DMs you pretending to be me, it is 100% not me. I only respond to DMs. I don't initiate the conversation. So if you guys are interested in the Discord, hit the link. $600. You're in it for 6 months. If you want to do it the whole 12 months, it's $350. I don't think that's too much. I think that is very, very reasonable. And I got some puts in Iran. So if you want to get into some puts with me, hit the link. And let's get to work. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys, man. Hopefully you enjoyed the live stream. I will see you probably later today, but I'm not really sure. But most likely tomorrow I'll live stream again. I am trying to live stream as many times as I can because I got to grow this channel. We are right now around 260 something subscribers. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers, guys. Let's make sure we don't blow accounts this bear market. There's going to be a time to be in the market. There's going to be a time to build positions going into the next bull market. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is not right now. If you think about, if you think this is 2022, nobody, absolutely no one was building a position in February of 2022 because they were thinking about the next bull market. The right time to build a position was in late 2022, in early 2023, and late 2023. That was the right time to build a position going into this last bull market. So if 2026 is our 2022, you don't want to do anything right now, guys. All right? You do not want to do anything right now. Wait until later 2026. Wait until later 2027. That is going to be the best time to build a position. And I promise you, altcoins, their first bigger move on the weekly, it's not going to be the beginning of a bull market. It is going to be altcoins breaking the structure of the long-term long-term bear market. Chad, just think about this, right? If you go into a bear market for 12 months, it is going to take more time to break the structure. It is not going to take a couple months or a couple weeks. It is going to take time. Historically, it takes about 12 months for altcoins to break the bear market structure and establish a bull market structure. So when you think about Solana goes sideways, breaking the bear market structure from around late 2022 until October 2023. That entire process, that is where you build a position. You don't build a position when Solana is crashing from $260 to $8. You stay away from the market. You wait for the structure to take place. Always, always, guys, structure is number one. All right, when the structure of the market is bearish, you stay away from the market. If you want to participate, you short the market. When the structure is turning bullish, you wait for those pullbacks. You wait for the price to rip up to the upside, breaks a key level, and then you wait for the pullback. That pullback becomes your entry to the bull market. Anyways, appreciate you guys, man. Hopefully you enjoyed the live stream. I will see you, I'm going to say most likely tomorrow. All right, guys. Peace out.